90 minutes sounds good. I'm living in an RV, and I've told my husband he can't come back, if the stair's out. I've sent him away so I didn't have the noise, right?
Wait a second. That's awesome. You can't come back if the stairs are out. Well, that's just a little taste of what you're about to hear for 90 minutes or so, because, we don't want our old man staying out too long in the cold. Coming up right after I do a little housekeeping, we got Jen, who is best friends with the wind, and you better hang on tight with this one. This is one of two types of episodes that I have within the platform here. 60 to 90 minutes long. Got a guest or two on. Today we have Jen. On opposite weeks, I have, actually it's just me, 10 to 15 minutes long, and I call that On My Mind. I go live on Facebook and YouTube. I would love for you to connect with me on those platforms so you can follow that stuff along. Everything you need to know about the show is on the old website, brawpodcast.com. And now listen, everything I do here, I'm by myself. I'm asking for a little bit of help. Jump over to the website, got a fresh new logo, which I love. I would love your feedback on that. And you can see everywhere that I am, all the platforms I'm at. So whatever platform that you listen to this on, especially YouTube, I'm trying to build that community up. I want to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm really close. So I'd love for you to subscribe, like, share, do all that stuff. But any other platform that you listen to this on, I would love for you to write a review, hit the pointy things, the stars, 5, of course. And if you like what I'm doing here, tell a friend or 7. And speaking of help, I can't go any further without hollering at the crews that helped me move this project along. First up, Charmaine and the crew down in Live Rishi. They just had a tremendous season, winning some state championships. Check that out. The Rishi rub is a staple in my gym bag. So you got some sore muscles and joints, Rishi rub is it. So this is a great time for you to check out any CBD product you haven't done in the past. If you get it from your local drugstore or head shop or the guy on the corner, throw that shit right in the trash. Live Rishi, use a code word TABLE50, and you're going to get 50% off your entire order. Hell of a deal. Give Charmaine a bunch of hell for me, too, when you talk with her. And then, of course, Craig over at High Speed Daddy. These guys make incredible gear for active lifestyles around parenting, but just active lifestyles in general. He's got an awesome thing going. Both these companies are local, and I would love for you to support local stuff. And, of course, you got to knock on Greg a little bit when you holler at him from me, all right? All right, well, let's get on to this show with Jen. Now, she likes to have a good time. She is a yes to life, and she's got some crazy stories. She's from down under, Australia, and she thinks I got a cool accent, right? The old Jersey boy. But we'll get into that as well. But this woman had a close encounter with a polar bear. Now, I'm telling you, close encounter. But as always, I'm going to let her tell you all about it. Let's get to it. That's amazing.
I pulled the stair in, so if the stair's in, you're not allowed to come in.
Hang on a second back.
I live
So
in
you guys live in an RV?
For about 10 months every year for the past 22. So
so it's like is that like a walkabout?
In Australia, no, walkabout, you'd take your tent with you. You'd look more like a homeless person. But that the RV, life on the road, being a nomad,
You like that, huh?
I love it. It was my dad's worst nightmare.
Oh, did your parents live that way too?
No, they didn't. My dad wanted me to be a professional, and he said, I hope you don't turn into a surfer and live in a van, both of which I do.
Well, wait. Hey, we're talking semantics here. You're in a camper. You're not in a van.
I'm in a camper. Yep.
How big's a camper?
This one's 24 foot long. It's called Bigfoot. Made in Canada. It's called the Bigfoot, and it's a Class C. So it's got the driver's seat and the passenger seat at the front, and everything's moving. So it's
that's awesome.
All in one.
How long you and the old man been together?
We've been together so long it's hard to remember, but I'm guessing about I don't know, 15 years, 16 years married and together for 22.
Good
Yeah,
for you guys.
best buddies.
I used to start a fight with my ex, and she'd be standing there with me, right? And they say, "How long you been together?" I said, "Long enough to where I don't look both ways when I cross the street anymore." She didn't like that comment. It's all good. That's all. So is it, when you say you do it for 10 months every year, is there a reason that it's like, do you guys go somewhere? How come you go 10 months each year?
Well, so I'm from Australia. My husband's from the US. And when we met up in Alaska. And I was having my dream come true. I'm a skier, grew up skiing. Mum and dad had a ski shop. And I wanted to go heli skiing. It's like the ultimate for skiers.
Now, real quick, that's when you jump out of a helicopter.
Well, you don't actually get to jump out of the helicopter. The helicopter lands on top of the mountain, and you're not allowed to jump on it. You have to get out very lightly, or the pilot gets mad at you. But yeah, we can say jumping out of the helicopter for make it easy.
That's awesome. And you were doing that in Alaska?
Yeah, I went up to Alaska. It's one of like the iconic spots in the world to go heli skiing, and that one trip changed my life. I fell in love with Alaska. I fell in love with the challenge of skiing big mountains, and the heli ski guides. Boy, they were sexy. They were like fit and healthy mountain men guides. And I met this guy, Steve, and he and I had a lot in common. And that one holiday had to turn back into another time to come back. And we did long distance for, about 8 or 9 years. And eventually I was told that we had to get married or they weren't going to let me in the country anymore. I'd been backwards and forwards so many times, but we were happy to do that. So he's one of those sexy heli ski guides.
Nice. I was going to say, don't tell me he was the helicopter pilot.
No. I mean, the helicopter pilots are very cool, but they don't get to get out of the helicopter and ski down. Whereas the guides get to get out, they check for avalanches, and I get to chase my man around. I've been chasing him around for 22 years down mountains. And the reason why I discovered RVs is my first trip, I stayed in a hotel, and you had to have a rental car and drive up to the mountain, which was about 45 minutes. And I saw other people, including all the staff, living in RVs at the base of these beautiful mountains. And I was like, when I come back, I'm doing that next time. And so I went back to Australia after that first trip, and I didn't see Steve for, nearly a year. And I was so unhappy. And so I ended up selling my business, selling my house, selling my sports car, cashing up, putting all my sporting gear, including my mountain bike, my snowboard, everything into a big bike box. And I flew to Seattle and I rode my mountain bike up and down all the RV dealerships, and I bought myself an RV. And
that's amazing.
Up to Alaska.
All right. So you threw all your shit in a box down and you sold everything down in Australia.
Yep.
Had it shipped to Seattle? Was that like a port or something? Was that a...
Yeah, I was flying Qantas, and so that was their hub where they fly into, and I'm like, well, there's RV shops there, that'll do.
Oh, yeah, and then with the box, did it go in the plane with you, or was it shipped like on a container?
No, back then it went on the plane with me, and my friends and my family, they still joke about it because back then they didn't have all the luggage restrictions that they do now. And they needed 2 cars to take me and all my luggage to the airport. I had so much gear.
Well, you're moving across the world. Of course you had gear. Well,
but I wasn't moving. I was just going on a 12-month holiday, right?
Well, okay. All right. 12. No, I'm not going to move. Let's just go on vacation for a year. And sell all my stuff.
They will only give you a visa, as an Aussie. They'll give you a 12-month visa to go into the US, and then they send you home again. So I was only allowed to stay for that 12 months.
Okay. And then what'd you do? Leave all your stuff in Alaska and then came back, just flew back, or did you bring all your shit back?
Well, my plan was originally, because, Steve and I had only sort of started flirting in a couple of dates, right?
Flirting.
And so I actually thought that the plan was going to be to sell the RV and go back to Australia and start a new business and buy a new house and start.
Okay.
But I fell in love, and I didn't want to stick with that plan, and so I decided I'd put the RV into storage in Anchorage, Alaska, for at least a year, and so I could come back again. And I left half of my stuff in the RV in storage, so I didn't have to travel with it all. And I ended up owning that RV in Alaska for 12 years until it finally fell apart from storing it outdoors in Alaskan winters, getting covered in snow.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how brutal that. So it stayed in storage for a year, and then you came back, and where were you in the visa process once you came back for the RV?
Well, I managed to sort of get this 12-month re-entry visa that I could sort of come and try and get another 12 months, and which they ended up sort of giving me. I would come for about 6 months, and then I would need to go back to Australia because I wasn't allowed to work in the US. I wasn't, I didn't have a green card. I wasn't allowed to work. And so I was running out of money. You spend a lot of money buying RVs and going heli skiing. So I would go back to Australia. I'd work my job for 6 months, save up my money, and then come back again. And so Steve and I did a long distance thing for a long time.
Damn, you really roped him in for being that long distance. Good for you, woman. God damn, that's amazing. And then, so what? You were going like 6 months roughly back and forth, and then eventually they're like, "Hey, whoa! You got to figure this out. You can't just be coming back." They probably thought you were a spy or something at that point.
Well, it's not very pleasant when you arrive at the airport and all of a sudden you go to, give them your passport, and all of a sudden, alarms start going off and they lead you off into a room.
I've been there.
You end up missing your next plane, and you get questioned, and, they wanted to know, well, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm in love. And
this is hot skier, and I just, you're holding me up, man. Come on.
Yeah, and they were worried about me working illegally, and I'd say, no, that's why I go back to Australia, work for 6 months and come back again. But eventually, after multiple trips to, the customs bad guys, they said to me, hey, if you guys love each other, you've been doing this for long enough, it's time to
tie the knot
or go home.
Now, when you went to go through the marriage thing, did people come and see if you were really in love and really being married and all that? Did you have to go through that?
Oh my gosh, the process of getting a green card makes me nearly turn green. It was horrible. I had to show photos of Steve and I, 9 years ago. I had to show photos of him meeting my parents in Australia. I had to show, photos of the wedding ring. I remember I gave them my wedding photos, and the one of us exchanging the ring, wasn't that exciting, wasn't something you put in, and they didn't approve me because they hadn't seen the photo of us exchanging rings, and I had to go away, find those photos, send them in.
Holy, what a pain in. Well, so I can understand why they did that, right? Because it's like a mail order. I was going to say an internet thing, but this was before the internet, so it'd be the mail-in bride kind of thing. They don't want you doing that, right?
That's right. They also don't want all those Aussies coming over.
Oh, Joe, that's horrible. Oh, that's horrible. Yeah.
A fake marriage. No.
That's awesome. I'd love that you go backing up a little bit, throwing all your stuff away, selling everything, hauling ass to Seattle. I can imagine the RV guy in Seattle. Here you come tootling on a bike with an Aussie accent, be like, I'm going to buy an RV. And he's like, what the fuck? That's amazing. That's a great story.
Well, actually.
And all for a man.
You've touched on something. You are so right. Seeing this Aussie girl arrive on a mountain bike and saying, I want to buy an RV, nobody would serve me. I would ride my bike around looking at RVs and I would not have one salesman come up and ask me or show me anything. And eventually this guy who was actually like just cleaning the office or something, I said to him, hey, I want to buy an RV. Can you get me the keys to look at some, blah, blah, blah. And it ended up being his first sale.
Good for him.
He got the commission on that one. And the other funny part was that when I finally decided, okay, this looks like a good one, I'd kicked the tires and done all the things my dad told me to. He goes, well, I suppose you want to test drive it. And I went, well, yeah, I think I should test drive this RV, but I've never driven on the other side of the road before. He was like, oh my God, we're going to let this crazy Aussie girl on a mountain bike. He was like, okay, I've got an idea. And he drove the RV to the nearest Walmart, which had a big parking lot in the back. And I was allowed to drive the RV around in circles in the Walmart parking lot.
That's awesome. And how big was that RV?
It was 24 feet long.
Damn, yeah. That's awesome. And the biggest thing you've driven for that point is a car on the other side of the road.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
And I'm on my own, traveling up to Alaska, single girl on her own with just, a dream and an adventure ahead.
That is so amazing. That's such a great story. We ain't even touched on a lot of stuff, but what a great story. God, that's awesome. I thought I did pretty good. I just lost a bet and moved across the country when I was 19. But hearing you, I'm like, I'm an amateur.
Can I ask what the bet was?
I had to leave by 7:30 the next morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I literally threw a dart at a map on the wall. Not blindfold, but I was like looking at my buddy and I just kind of chucked it. And I said, wherever that lands.
That's where I'm going.
And there's that was before like debit cards and all that kind of stuff. So I had a checkbook, and I remember my mom taught me how to balance a checkbook. And she goes, how to save a little trick to save money, a little hack to save money. If you bought something for $4.87, just take $5 in your ledger. Take out $5, not $4.87, and eventually all that builds in the back end and you don't see it, but the bank sees it. And then I was making a bunch of money. So if I did something for $4.87, I'd take out like $10 because I'm like, fuck it, it's saving it. Eventually I'll need it. And I had a handful of money in a backpack. I threw it in my pickup truck and drove out. And my mom says, because I had to leave the next morning, and my mom says, I'll close your bank account down and I'll wire you the money. That was back in the day, right? And there was a bunch of money in my checking account. I was like, how much? There's what? She's like, yeah. I was like, huh, okay. I'll go to Western Union right now. So that's how it kind of like, that was my, yeah. But that was the same thing. I ended up at some shithole motel. Didn't know what the hell was going on. It's a great adventure when you're young like that. Not hella skiing and all that, but that was a fun adventure. And yeah, I've always had the attitude, and I really have it now, is life's too short, man. I mean, have fun. Don't get buried in a job, and there's a saying that I heard a long time ago that men, I talk about men because I'm a man. And the joke I have is, I was born a man. I identify as a man, but according to a box of macaroni and cheese, I'm a family of 4. Most men live a life of quiet desperation. And when I heard that years ago, I went, fuck that. And I was like, that ain't going to be me, man. If I don't like something, gone. Let's move on, man. Let's look at my shirt. Next. Let's just, if it doesn't make you happy and you're not having a good time, life is too short, and we get caught up with money and objects. And no, man, I got a 3-year-old little dude that I chase around, and that's life for me. I chase my wife and my son around for obviously 2 different reasons, but And earlier when you're like, I'm chasing him around, I go, I hear that, man. But my wife is really fast, so I have to hide and I trip her when she goes by. So that's how I catch her. So because I can't keep up with her, but no, it's you gotta have somebody with you. Sounds like your old man. He's got to be pretty adventurous to live in an RV for all this time, right?
Yeah. Well, he actually was used to come out on the Oregon coast right now. That's where the RV's parked, is in on the Oregon coast, and we come out here to go kite surfing. And he has been coming out. He's a Montana man. They make them good in Montana. They're gentlemen there. Not all of them are cowboys, but they have good snow, good adventurers, and
they come from good stock, is what you're telling me.
Good stock, exactly. And so he grew up sort of sailing on the lake, and he grew up skiing, very similar upbringing to me. But every summer, as soon as he had his driver's license, he would jump in his, old beat up bomb, and he would drive it out to the Oregon coast with his windsurfing gear, and he would spend his summer living in his car, windsurfing all the time, living life to the fullest, had a few jobs here and there to make some income. And it's been part of his life, this routine, as long as he can remember. So when I came into the scene, he's like, okay, we're going to the Oregon coast. And I'd left the RV up in storage up in Alaska. And so all of a sudden I found my first summer living in a Suburban with a mattress on the back.
With your Montana man, though, right? So it was all good.
With my Montana man, and I don't know whether he was testing me or not, but I passed.
Apparently. Yeah.
It didn't take very long for me to convince him that if he wanted to keep doing this, we needed a van. And we've had, in our time together, we've had 4 or 5 different vans. The vans got bigger and bigger.
Sure.
And so
that's so was he was up there skiing, or was he a ski instructor?
He was a backcountry heli ski guide. So it's his job when people come to go heli skiing, it's his job to jump in the passenger seat of the helicopter, fly around looking at the mountains, looking for avalanche dangers, knowing the standard of the skiers in the back of the heli, and pointing to the part and saying, I want to go to that one, and landing on the top, digging a pit, again, checking for the safety. And then if he's happy, he will send the helicopter away, and he will take his crew, normally four clients and 1 guide, and he will lead them down the mountain. So he's able to look at a mountain flying up to it this way, and then stand on the top and you're looking the opposite way, and being able to know how to get you down safely without falling in a crevasse, without going over a cliff, and without starting an avalanche most of the time.
Most of the time. I like your little asterisk there. Most of the time. So listening to you talk like this about your old man, he still makes you buzz, huh? That's amazing.
Yeah, more than ever. We love each other so much, and we're like best buddies. I call him Big Buddy, and he calls me Pickle. And we have a blast. We have a lot of laughs, and we are seriously just big kids. He rides his 1-wheel around. He goes kite surfing, and I've always wanted to be the best wife ever. So I'm not going to tell him not to do anything. He gets to have a lot of fun, and most of the time he wants to do his activities with me. So we've been kite surfing, skiing big mountains, riding together. I normally rollerblade and chase him on his 1-wheel, but I'm so grateful to have found this life partner to share.
Well, obviously you matched up, right? But now when you were heading to Alaska, to do your thing with heli skiing, was that the last thing on your mind? All of a sudden this dude showed up and you're like, hey.
Well, I was a single girl and I like to party. I'm an Aussie. We drink a lot of beer.
We're talking. So here we go.
It doesn't take too many beers to get a good buzz and start, flirting with the good-looking Americans. You guys have a cool accent, by the way.
That's amazing that an Aussie is telling me I got a cool accent.
Oh yeah, it's really cool. I like it a lot. And I was up in Alaska, and my dad used to joke. He'd saying, Jen couldn't find a man, or there was no men that would put up with her in Australia, so she had to go to Alaska, where the odds are good, but the goods are odd.
The goods are odd. That's awesome. And they didn't want you living out of a van and marrying a ski bum.
That's right. That's right. My dad's worst nightmare, right? But they ended up, getting to meet Steve, and he had no tattoos. Unlike myself, he had no tattoos. He passed, and my parents loved him very much. And that's when I decided, okay, let's do this.
Let's hitch up, right?
Yeah.
That's such a great story. So we could probably talk till Sunday about all the adventures you've been on, then, huh?
Oh my goodness. I am so grateful to have lived a life of adventures, and the universe has just handed me all these experiences which most people never get the chance to have. You can't even book to pay and have some of the adventures that I've been on. And so it's incredible. No wonder I'm writing books and, telling my stories on podcasts.
Of course you have to.
I have to. I've got to share.
Yeah, this is gold. Everybody's like, wow, I wish I would do that, And it's never too late. Whatever adventure you think you can go on, fucking go on it, And we look at money as a lubricant for experience, right? Before our son was born, now we live just as happy, and we're like you guys. We're big kids, and having a 3-year-old around just fuels that, right? I'm that dad at the playground, and I'm that dad when we go places, and my wife's the same way. And we're just so blessed to have that opportunity. But the thing is, though, we built that. And what's cool is you and your old man, you guys built that, and you build it. So it's like, I could see somebody like, must be nice. No, man, I got it. I built it. This is what I want. I'm living what I want. So.
Yeah, we made different decisions to others, and our decisions led us to where we are today. And some things were sacrifices that I thought I was making back then, and they've ended up just being some of the best decisions and the most valuable experiences of my life.
Yeah, but the quote unquote sacrifices you felt that you gave up, were they like the societal norm? Like, why aren't you have a picket fence and 2.5 cars and right?
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. For sure. I was taught that, you need to go to school, get educated. My parents were entrepreneurs, so we tend to follow in our parents' footsteps. So I had my own business, and I had my own house, and I had my own sports car, and I was so unhappy. And I thought that was the formula for happiness. That was what my parents thought was the formula for happiness. And I just wanted my parents to be proud of me. So I kind of did everything that I thought I should be doing. And it wasn't until I went up to Alaska and I met the type of person that's a heli ski guide like Steve. But then even better was meeting the badass women that live and play in the mountains up in Alaska. I mean, those girls and women were just so cool. And they had such a different attitude to me. I wanted to be like them. I wanted to figure out how I could be badass too. And they were living without men. They were living in the wintertime, some of them without power or running water. And they were going out and chopping their own wood for heat. And, and then they were climbing up these big, steep mountains and riding off the top at sunset while I'm drinking my beer, and I'm watching them just going, wow, how
that's awesome.
Those women turn out like that. Look at these lives that these people are living, and it was so different to what I was living. So I'm so grateful I got exposed to that, and then I chose that I wanted that lifestyle and that life too.
And look how happy you are.
Yeah.
I can just tell you're like glowing. It's awesome. Very inspiring. Very inspiring. And then do you guys, with the RV, do you go anywhere else in the country, or do you just stay on that kind of the West Coast?
So we chase wind. We're wind junkies. We love to fly kites and we love to ski in the wintertime. So we started off the conversation where we were talking about how come you're doing 10 months in an RV? And
Right.
so we spend a bunch of time in the summer on the Oregon coast, driving up and down, chasing the wind. So I love to forecast. I'm always checking the swell. Where's the best swell going to be on the coast? Where is the highest wind going to be? Where do they meet up in the prime time? And we'll just okay, we got to drive, and we'll drive for 4 hours in order to get to a location where we're going to get that epic kite surfing session.
I was just going to say, because you keep saying kite, but you just clarified that you're kite surfing. When you started the conversation, you're like, we like to fly kites. I'm like, I don't see you out there with a little princess kite on the beach flying it. No, there's going to be something else involved, but you did clear it up. You're kite surfing.
Well, yes, I am kite surfing, but you know what? Yesterday I was flying a 26-foot octopus with one line. I have a bunch of kites. I'm best friends with the wind, and I just love the feeling of joy that it gives you when you're flying a kite. And currently I'm actually injured and I'm not allowed to be out there and riding the waves. My husband is, and I'm so happy for him, and I'm enjoying watching him and taking photos. But rather than me getting all depressed that I can't be out there too, I decided just to change my kites. So I've got these cool stunt kites that I'm learning how to fly with 4 lines.
Oh, that's cool. That's fun.
And I've got this octopus kite, which I found yesterday in our travels for $20, and that's pretty cool. I've never seen a toy where it says 18 plus on the side,
On the kite?
Oh yeah, it pulls hard. You wouldn't want to give that to a little kid.
Well, that's cool. That's cool that you can still harness the wind, right?
Yeah.
So you're out there, you're still feeling the wind and trying to harness it, but in a capacity because of your injury.
Correct.
Yeah.
And when I dealt with it's actually an illness right now. I did have an injury last year. I blew my ACL and I was out of action.
Oh.
But this year I actually got diagnosed with brain aneurysms, and I've had 3 brain surgeries this year, which is, that's been the scariest thing of my life. Scarier than being caught in an avalanche, scarier than being chased by a polar bear. And
I got to ask you about that. Let's talk about your brain though. So how were you diagnosed for that? Like, how did you find that out?
I started getting bad headaches, really bad headaches, and I couldn't seem to kick them. Nothing was working, and I'd never had headaches before, so it was unusual for me. And I eventually go to the doctor, and they did some tests on me, and they told me, oh, you've got meningitis. And I'm like, okay, don't know how I got meningitis, but and they give you the medication, and I take the 6 to 8 weeks of medication, and I've still got headaches. I'm like, look, it hasn't gone away. And they're like, oh, you've got migraines because of the meningitis. Here's some different medication. I'm like, crazy. And so they just kept giving me medication. It took about 5 months, and most of the medications I actually never got filled. I'm like, I'm not taking morphine. I'm not taking hydrocodone. I'm an athlete. I love to be fit and healthy apart from my beer. And, and so
I got to have that.
I can't live without beer and Vegemite as an Aussie. And so I eventually was going to PT because I was recovering from my knee blowout. And my PT said to me, you haven't gotten rid of these headaches, have you? And I said, no. And I told him my story, and he's like, I want you to go to ER and check in and get them to do more diagnostics, because my GP had said, we've done all the diagnostics we can. The only thing is medication. And so I went to ER that day and asked if they could do some more diagnostics. And I'm so grateful to this doctor who went, wow, you've had a lot of shit happening and a lot of medications and a lot of diagnostics, but they haven't done a CT scan of the back of your head. And he did that, and he came into the room and said, hey, I think I've found what's causing your headaches. I see a big aneurysm, and I've got an appointment for you to see a neurosurgeon on Monday. Don't miss that appointment. I'm like,
that could have done you in.
I didn't even know what a brain aneurysm was. I had to Google it and went, oh my God, most people have a stroke because the aneurysm ruptures and they have a stroke, and that's how they find out. So I already felt lucky.
And then it was giving you a headache because of the pressure, but it hasn't obviously didn't erupt. No kid. Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
do you think that you living an active lifestyle and being in good physical condition helped that part of it?
I think that being an athlete and an extreme athlete, somebody who skis big mountains and waves, I have dealt with a lot of fear in my life. And this was one of the scariest things I'd ever experienced. And I'm so grateful for all of the sort of mindset and mental tools that I had in my toolbox that I could suddenly start using to help me be brave, be strong, be
Yeah,
grateful, be lucky.
yeah.
And that's when I realized that, boy, there's a lot of people out there without my skill set who are going through the same thing, and I really felt for them. And I'm on a bit of a mission now to share my story so that they can hear it and find hope and learn some of those techniques.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think that putting yourself through, I mean, you're an extreme case, but putting yourself through hardship or doing extreme things, it doesn't have to be sports, but putting pressure on yourself and putting yourself in a situation that you have to make decisions out of fear. I think those are awesome tools. I do it on purpose all the time. It's like, who was it? Eleanor Roosevelt, I think, said it. Do one thing every day that scares you.
Yeah.
I think those are amazing tools to have. So when you do get in a situation like yourself, look how well you can. Well, I mean, it's still scary as fuck, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's your health, right?
Yeah.
And then, 200,000 years of DNA, whatever you believe in, how old we are, most of our DNA goes right to defense. So you start thinking of the scariest shit, like, oh, what? The saber-tooth tiger is going to attack me kind of theory. You know what I mean? So as soon as something's wrong with you, instantly I go right to the absolute worst thing. Oh my God, I got a little pain in my side. My chest cavity's full of cancer. It's like your mind goes that way.
Yeah. I call it awfulizing, and we do.
That's amazing. Awfulizing.
We awfulize all the time, and we have this great imagination. Maybe it's from watching all the movies, in our lives, but we have this great imagination, and all of a sudden we start imagining the worst case scenarios. Mm-hmm. And then our body with our imagination actually starts feeling that fear, and we're going to have a primal fear response, which is a fight, a flight, or a freeze. And people tend to be having those responses with things that aren't dangerous or it's not going to kill them. And as you mentioned, we really do need to sort of face fears on a regular basis. You can't build courage unless you actually face fear. So if we want to be courageous in life and be able to deal with all the extreme challenges that we get, whether it's health or relationships or whatever it is, the more we can practice. And I'm so grateful that I got to practice being scared every time I skied a big mountain or every time I jumped in on a big wave. I had a lot of practice. And so I had that courage. And I believe it's something that we can teach, we can share.
Oh, absolutely. So let's figure that out. If you were to teach that, what would you do? If you got somebody, you would figure out what they're scared of and have them face it? Or would you how would you teach that, you think?
I do teach this, and I'm stoked to share some of this with you. The first thing I teach people, fear starts with F. The first thing we need to do is forecast. And that's something I do all the time as a wind athlete. And I got to forecast if there's snow, I got to forecast if there's wind, and I'm going to forecast that I'm going to be scared if I want to go on Facebook Live. Or you can forecast when you're going to be scared. We know what scares us, and we can either run away or we can forecast it and go, okay, I need to do this thing I'm really scared of. When is the best time in my week or my day to actually do that? Should I do it in the morning when I'm feeling more energized? Do I wait until, you know, the rain stops? Or what do you need in your forecast to make it a little bit easier for you to experience that things that's scaring you? So forecasting
I
is
like it.
so important. The E.
Well, let me forecasting though. Do you feel so? My first thought that came in was that with forecasting, you're gonna fall to analysis paralysis. Because you're gonna be like, no, it has to be perfect. No, I'm not ready. No, you know what does that make sense?
Yeah, that's why you need a couple other steps. You can't just forecast,
okay.
right? But you're going to be better prepared if it's raining and you know it's going to rain, and you take your umbrella or your Gore-Tex jacket with you, right? So you're just preparing it in a timeline. And that's the first step. But you're so right. If you just got stuck on that only point, there's not just one thing that you need to do in order to overcome your fear and to find that courage.
True. Yeah. Because I find myself like with this show, I have no qualms at all of public speaking. Like you could pull me from this seat, the way I'm dressed, everything, and drop me in front of 400 people and go entertain them for half an hour. I'd be like, okay. And I just go out there and do my thing. But I do find that once in a while, it's funny you say live. I do the other style of podcast I do within the show is a live version for like 15 minutes. It's just me yelling in the mic. And right before I get on there, I'm like, all right, here we go. Got to do it. Hi. And then 2 minutes in, you're just like, you're all good. But that first little, like maybe you like putting your skis over the top of the edge of the mountain, you're like, fuck. But once you're going, it's like, oh yeah, we're good.
Exactly. You've got it exactly right. And there's some things that scare some people, but somebody else has practiced them a bunch of times, and so it's not as scary for them. We all have our unique personalities, our values in life, and our own fears. You know, I'm from Australia, and I quite often love having a conversation with an American and talking about big spiders or sharks or snakes.
Go fuck yourself with those spiders, by the way.
You know, big tough dudes like you. They're like, oh my God, spiders.
No, I'll burn the house down. I'll be like, I'll just torch the house and I'll figure that out later. Not like snakes. It's funny because like snakes, but like too is like some big bugs that like I'm not. But okay, so that's a good thing to bring it around. The reason too that I'm quote unquote scared of them, I'm just not used to having them around.
That's right.
Right? To where you grew up with it. Right? Like I grew up on a farm and farm country and all that. And like my attitude, I guess, around death is just, it drives some people crazy. Because I'm like, next. All right, dead. All right, here we go. Like, you're not heartbroken? Well, it's kind of the circle of life. You know, and but I'm used to that, to where you're used to seeing big crawly things and big snakes. So you're like, hey, it's a big spider. Okay, next. Or I'd be like, no, and burn the house down.
Yeah, it's what you get exposed to. And, you know, I've been exposed to so much fear that you build up a tolerance. It's a fear tolerance of what you can handle.
Going right back to what we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Huh.
That's definitely.
Fun. That's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the other?
You want to know what the E stands for?
Yeah.
The E stands for empower yourself with skills and tools. So I like to, when I'm going out there kite surfing, it might be really big waves and the water's cold, and you know there's some really big fins and animals on the Oregon coast here, right? And so if I focused on that, I'd get really scared. But one of the things I do is when I put on my wetsuit, I think of it like, you know, hey, this is my superhero costume.
Oh, there you go.
Black rubber suit, right? I've got a knife on my harness just in case I get tangled in my lines to cut the lines. So, you know, hey, I've thought about the fears, I've thought about the things that could go wrong, and I've got a plan for it. It's like those heli ski guides, you know, how does Steve deal with the fear of skiing huge mountains that could avalanche, and they have huge holes from crevasses on a glacier and people falling in. Well, they've got a massive backpack, and in that backpack they're carrying rope, and they're carrying first aid kits, and they're carrying ice axe, and they've got extra puffy jackets to put on, and they've got radios and EPIRBs, and they've got all of the tools they need for any disaster that could happen. And I think that really empowers us to be more confident, to face the fear if we're ready. If we're just diving into something with no knowledge and ignorance, and something goes wrong, well, man, that's dangerous in certain situations. And it can be those other fears that we experience as well. You know, if you're dealing with your health, get the knowledge from a doctor. Don't just sit there on Google and hear about all the terrible things that might be happening.
Holy Christ. Google and Wikipedia will tell you you're done.
Exactly. So empower yourself with skills and gear, and not just carrying the gear in your backpack. Go and do the training, do an avalanche course, do a first aid course, do, like, build your own knowledge, because with knowledge comes power and courage and confidence. So,
and obviously you're talking about your experience with skiing and stuff, but it's a metaphor. I mean, obviously you can apply this to anything, literally anything. I mean, painting, recording, I mean, building a wall. I mean, you could apply it to anything. Yeah.
This technique works with any fear that somebody is gonna face. So, do you want to know what A?
Hey, let's hear it.
Okay,
Don't you know,
A, I'm not Canadian. The A stands for adapt. You need to adapt your mindset to what you're gonna attack. You know what you're gonna do. What is the fear that you're gonna face, and you want to drop into that mountain? I've got to make sure I'm armed with the right mindset to do that. And if I haven't got the right mindset, it goes back to forecasting. Maybe I've forecasted I haven't got the right mindset for that today. When you're doing your avalanche class, there's a whole subject called the human factor. You'll love this. And the human factor is where, I'll give you an example, where a bunch of guys, they decide they want to ski this big mountain, and they need, the weekend off from their wives and family. So they've organized the time off on this certain weekend in advance. They're doing their forecasting to make sure that, they've got enough snow and the sun's going to come out. And they might see a couple of red flags in the forecast, hey, there's been a big temperature change, or hey, we had a big snowfall, and they're so excited. They're like, yeah, powder. But anyone who knows about avalanches knows that a major temperature change and an increase of weight on the mountain is a huge red flag. And then they get there to the base of the mountain on that day, and they look up, and they look at this mountain they've been dreaming of skiing for so long, and they look at the mountain next to it, and they go, oh, look, there was an avalanche over there. Oh, it doesn't matter. There's none on ours. We'll be fine. We'll be right, mate. And so all of a sudden that human factor starts discounting those red flags, and that's when someone's going to make the wrong decision, because they're not going to have another chance to ski that mountain. They can't get the
put all the right.
Yeah, so we tend to make decisions based on what we want, instead of actually, looking, being observant and looking for those red flags. And in my life, I competed in the Red Bull Ragnarok one year in Norway, right? That's just an endurance race. It's 5 hours, the most grueling snow kite event in the world. That's why they call it the Ragnarok. And I wanted to do this race for so long, and I'd spoken to other people that had done it before, and they said, Jen, it is physically the most demanding thing you've ever done. I mean, most people only finish one lap, if they're lucky, of the 5 that you're trying to achieve in the 5 hours. You're just exhausted. And there's 400 people on the start line. And there's kites and lines going everywhere. And you've got to go up and over hills. And you can't actually see the next mark of where you're going to. So you've got to figure out navigating. There was so much involved in going in this race. And I didn't want to just go in this race. I wanted to win, right?
Well, of course.
And so I had this great coach in Australia, and I told him about this race, and he's like, "Oh, this is great." He said, "Let's meet tomorrow, and I'm going to give you a mental strategy." And so having a mental strategy is what we're talking about, not just having a positive mindset, but having a mental strategy.
Of course, yeah.
What it's going to take to achieve this race. And he came back. I mean, he's just a brilliant, sports coach and psychologist. And he said, "Okay, Jem, you got 5 laps. I want you to choose a person for each of those 5 laps. I want you to have one of the laps for your brother, right, who's a huge inspiration to me. Okay. And I want you to do one of the laps for yourself. And you can decide what the other 3 are, and you can also decide what order they go in." I'm like, "Oh, this is cool. This is a bit of a game. Let me see if I can figure this stuff out." And so I decided that in the first lap, it was all about navigation. I mean, you don't know where you've got to go in this race until 6 a.m. that morning, where they put you in front of a big map screen and they show you where these markers are. And it's not like a sailing race where you can see across the flat water to where it is. Right. They're over mountains. And so you've got to figure out how to get to A to B depending on the wind direction. And there's valleys with no wind, and then you go up the mountain and it's twice the wind speed up there.
Just real quick though, how are you skiing?
Yeah.
And you're getting pulled by a kite.
Yeah, it's called snow kiting. And so it was me combining my sports, my love of kite surfing and my love of skiing, and meshing the two together.
Oh that's like heaven to you.
Oh my gosh, it is the most
awesome.
Incredible sport, because you've got natural wind power now towing you up mountains. It's like having your own personal ski resort, right?
Yeah.
And you're out in the backcountry away from people, and it is definitely my passion, and others too. There were 400 people from all around the world on the start line of this snow kiting race. Yeah.
And how many finish?
Maybe 10, 20, if you're lucky.
Did you finish?
I was so close. I could see the finish line, and I became the woman who beat me. She's incredible. She became the first woman that year to ever complete the race, and I got second to her and the second closest finisher. I was probably about 10 minutes from the finish line because the wind died, and I ended up having to drag my kite and trying to walk on my skis to get there.
To finish it?
Yeah, I just couldn't make it. I was exhausted after 5 hours. As I said, it was mentally and physically grueling.
That's got to be a major feather in your cap, though.
Such a great memory.
Just to do it. To participate in it is what I'm saying.
Just to participate, to get second place as well, and it was the last year. It was in 2019.
And then all the shit happened.
Yeah, so it was the last year that they ran that event, and so I'm so grateful I got the chance to do that, and I learned so much about the sport, and I learned so much about myself doing that race.
When you're drawn down like that, you learn so much about yourself. That's incredible. That's incredible. When you talk about the human factor, not on the physical part, but for me, I like to play a lot of poker, and we call that a variance. Somebody sits at the table and just completely you're like, all right, he's the variance. All right, here we go. And that's a mental challenge for me. What I like about cards, the physical part, I've been physical my whole life, sports, everything physical. And what I like about cards is it's mental.
Yeah.
there's nothing physical. Well, there is physical about it if you're playing in big tournaments to where you got to play for 18 hours a day, 4, 5, 6 days in a row. I mean, that's super physical.
Yeah.
But like adventures. Oh, this is what I was going to tell you. Colin, I think his name is Colin. He's like an adventure dude. I don't know if you've ever seen him. Like a tall Colin, I think his name is.
I know a couple of Collins.
He skied across Antarctica pulling a wagon.
Oh,
and then
cool.
What I'm about to tell you about training, because your coach was talking about training.
Yeah.
And I read in an article of his, they paddled a canoe through some crazy canal or over an ocean or something. I don't know the detail, and I don't want to speak out of place. I don't want to, put something false out there that I don't know what I'm talking about. But his coach, to prepare for this, like he'd be sleeping in the middle of the night, and they keep him cold. They're keeping him cold because where he's going is going to be cold. He'd wake him up with a bucket of ice water, and then instantly give him this little tiny Lego set that he has to put together. So now you're mental, but now you got to be dexterous, like with your fingers, and you're like trying to figure that out, and you're freezing and you're shaking, and I was just like, that is incredible. What a crazy way to like train adversity, like we've been talking about. That's
Yep. Training's scary situations, but in a safer environment. You had people there. It was just Lego. But when you're out there, and I did a bunch of training last year to cross Greenland, and I camped out in Montana in -40 for 4 nights by myself. Yeah. And you get so cold, your fingers don't work, and it's hard to do anything. So,
and I figured out on a boat like that, like tying rope and zipping up your jacket. Like, I mean, just learning how to use your hands when they're that cold. It was pretty neat, the article. And I'm like, fuck that. But that's cool that he does that because he knows he has a goal like you did with the Ragnarok is, okay, I have a goal. This is how I'm going to train for it. Cause of course you have to put yourself in a similar situation, and I also heard a saying that kids, and of course, my son, that they need to learn how to do dangerous things carefully. And I just went, that is amazing. And I watch him do things, and I just let him do them. And I be careful, buddy. All right. And he's just doing, and my wife's like, whoo. And I'm like, he's fine. But that's what you got to do. I mean, you got to,
Yeah, you've got to do that. Some people think I'm just on the sane side of crazy, right?
It's a beautiful thing.
Somebody also, people tell me all the time, I'm also one of the most safety conscious people that they know, because that allows me to do all of these extreme sports, is because my safety skills equal my athletic skills, and we really need to practice those things, and getting outside your comfort zone in cold temperatures, or pushing yourself outside your comfort zone of what you've done before is so important, and that's part of the training.
Yep. There was a guy I had on the show, and he kind of same thing. Oh God, where was he? New Zealand, I think. No, where the hell was he? But he gave up the golden handcuffs at this job. He was making a bunch of money, lived in this van, and he just drove around, and he was ice climbing. He was a climber, but he liked to climb up, ice. And he calls it chasing the 8. And I've been using it ever since. And what that means is 8% of the time, you need to be completely out of your comfort zone and almost fear for your life. And since then, I've only truly been in that twice. And that was a couple of years ago. I talked to that guy, and I put myself in some.
I love that.
Yeah. Chasing the 8, he calls it. I thought that was pretty cool, right? You do that. I mean, You fucking do that driving down the road in your RV, but
On the roads in America, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Me hoping that I'm on the right side of the road.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what do we got left? R?
Yeah, so A was adapting our mindset, and
Yep.
then R is being ready. Being ready to go. And a lot of people can say, oh, but I'm not ready. I might have my forecast, I might have my skills and gear, and I might have the right mindset, but we have to be ready just to go. And that's where I like to say, ready, mindset, go.
Yeah,
And knowing that you're going to have to repeat it. So the R actually has two meanings. It's ready and repeat. And so if we take the pressure off ourselves about doing it once and doing it perfectly, hey, I'm going to do this multiple times, take the pressure off ourselves. And the more we do it, the more comfortable we get with it. And then all of a sudden it starts becoming fun. You know, that fear that we have, and then we feel this excitement because we actually did it. And then we feel proud of ourselves for doing it. And that feeling is so much better than the fear feeling that you end up, you know, enjoying that feeling.
Well, that's chasing the 8.
It's chasing the 8.
At that point, you're chasing the 8. You're chasing that dragon to feel that adrenaline, you know? That's awesome. I love it. That is some good stuff. Damn it, woman.
You do know that's my nickname, right? They call me Adrenogen. Adrenogen has been my nickname.
I ain't going to be able to sleep till Sunday now. Thanks. Appreciate it. Good looking out. That's such a good, man, that is awesome. And I like how that, and two, you didn't come up with fear, you know, your acronyms, sitting at a desk.
No.
And the people listening on audio, she's smiling, shaking her head. No. I've had the shit scared out of me.
I don't like sitting down very much at all.
What's that?
I don't like sitting down very much at all. I make people feel very uncomfortable because I'll come up and they'll say, have a seat. And I'm like, nope, nah. I'm happy standing, man.
Yep. I'm a stander too. I'm like, no, I'm good. Thanks. You know, I don't mind standing. Two things I got to get to. You had a spinal cord injury?
I did, one of my previous injuries, and it wasn't from a crash or something going wrong. It was kind of like the brain surgery where my back started aching. And I mean, okay. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that are like, oh yeah, I know that feeling. My back's sore. And yep. I just couldn't kick it. No amount of ibuprofen or putting my legs up the wall or doing yoga or massage, nothing was working. And I ended up going back to Australia because I for a while there I had better healthcare in Australia, so I'd choose to do my health stuff there. And they discovered that I needed a spinal fusion, and they were going to have to take the disc out. The disc had collapsed, and I had to have a spinal fusion. And it was an incredible operation where they actually went in through my stomach rather than the back, and they moved all my parts aside, and then they pulled that disc out and put in an artificial disc. I like to think of it like a snowboard because it had inserts, and the bones go through your spine, and they put me back together again. And I was very grateful for modern technology, but I also had a 12-month recovery ahead of me, again in that point where I wasn't able to do the things I love to do, including kite surfing and skiing those big mountains.
So hang on just 1 second. I want to show you something. I don't think you know. Sorry, hang on. It's going to take a second.
Yeah.
But it's a visual I want to show you because you're going to freak out. I got to find the picture. Because you and I, have something very much in common. Extremely in common.
Wow.
Yes. Wait till you see this. thought it was there. But we're gonna come back to this. I want to hear. I'm gonna look for this. I want to hear about the damn polar bear. We talk about spiders and snakes and shit. What's up with the polar bear?
Dear, I don't know why you guys are scared of spiders that are this big and
I'm scared of a fucking polar bear, though.
You guys have mountain lions, you guys have grizzly bears, and you guys have polar bears.
Fucking polar bear, right?
It was one of the lists. Remember, I told you I arrived with my mountain bike in the box. I jumped in that RV, and in that first 12 months while I was driving around in the RV, I had this bucket list of things that I wanted to achieve. And nearly at the top of that list is I wanted to see polar bears in the wild. And I had no idea.
What the hell's the matter? See, what the hell's the matter with you? You're one of those people. You're one of those people that are like, I don't know why it attacked me. I wanted to see it in the wild.
Well, I wanted to see one in the wild, and on that, in that first 12 months that I was there, I parked my RV in Fairbanks. I jumped in a plane and arrived in Barrow. I didn't book myself a hotel. I had no idea how I was going to find a polar bear, but I got there and was told that this photographer. Right. I like spontaneity, in case you hadn't guessed. And I found this photographer that had the permit to drive his vehicle that had tracks instead of wheels out to Point Barrow, and he would photograph these bears. And I got to sit in the passenger seat of his car, and it was incredible. Over 2 days of going out with him, I saw 70 polar bears, 70.
Holy,
polar bears
that
from
would
the safety of his car, right?
Okay. All right.
It was amazing. Absolutely.
That would be super cool. I would do that in a heartbeat. If I could be in one of those track vehicles and like go out there and just watch them in their natural environment, that would be incredible. I thought maybe you were out like skiing or something and got chased down by a bear.
Well, no, the second time, that's kind of what happened. So
of course, I had.
Let's fast forward, 15 years or so, and I got the opportunity to go up to Kaktovik, and that's a remote village off the north coast of Alaska. It's on an island. The island is actually attached to the mainland by ice in the wintertime, and I got to go up there to teach these kids how to fly kites, right? Not only is kites my sport, but I get to coach other people and I get to share my love of kites with incredible.
Okay, wait, well, hold on. I get. Hold on a second. How did you how do you come across to do that?
Somebody asked me and I said yes.
I see. I knew you were a yes. Right, we're 5 minutes into our conversation. I'm like, this woman is a yes to everything. I love it. Why not, right?
What an amazing opportunity and experience. So I went up to Kaktovik with my bag full of kites, and I got there and there was no wind, and somebody said to me, what are you going to do if there's no wind to fly the kites, Jen? And I said, don't you worry. The wind is my best friend and it's going to follow me up here. I couldn't take it on the plane with me or in my luggage. The wind will be here.
I can't take it on the plane.
Yeah, the next day we woke up and we're on the Beaufort Sea. And I don't know if you realize, but the Beaufort is a wind scale, right? The Beaufort wind scale. It's famous around the world. And all of a sudden it started blowing a gale. It was seriously blowing 80 to 100 mile an hour winds. So now I had the opposite problem. It was too windy and we were stuck inside for days. And days and days. There's no way the plane could come in or take off.
Because of the wind, right?
I started finding out that people get stuck there for weeks and months because it's just too windy and too stormy. And I didn't care. I was loving every second of the extreme weather and meeting all these incredible native, and
like truly, like you're living the life and like you're a deep. Immersed is the word.
I was immersed in the culture and just fascinated and so grateful to learn how they lived. And I'd go into these buildings And there were pictures of polar bears everywhere, and there were posters everywhere, showing you to stand up and wave your arms if you saw one. And I kept saying to people, I really want to see a polar bear. I really want to see another polar bear. Where do I go to see a polar bear? And they're like, Jen, it's May. You have to come back in August.
Is it like a season?
Yeah, there's a polar bear season. So again, you do your forecasting and you go, okay, this is the right season to go and find a polar bear. And I was told that there's no way I would see one. The polar bears are out on the ice this time of the year. And I was a bit disappointed, but I didn't care. There was enough excitement and things going on that I was learning. And I just loved going into all of these homes and the school and the one restaurant that there was and seeing these incredible photos, because that's where the famous photographers go in August and September to take pictures of those polar bears. They're lying around and they can get quite close. And I got to meet polar bear guides, and I was in my
and then was the place just full of pictures too?
It was just awesome. There were pictures of polar bears, there were polar bear claws, there were some polar bear skins around. They had to unfortunately shoot a couple of them that were coming into the village and putting the kids in danger, in the school playground and things like that. And I got to meet these guys, and their job is polar bear patrol. And I was fascinated. These guys drive around on their snow machines. Now, a snow machine is a snowmobile, but in Alaska, they're called snow machines.
Snow machine, right? Okay.
And they drive around with two guns in the back, and they drive around the outskirts of the village looking for polar bears. And one gun has bullets and one gun has fireworks. And most of the time, if they see a bear coming towards the village because they've smelt food or they want to get into the bins, they'll shoot fireworks at it and scare them out of the village. And I got to chat with those guys, and again, I'm fascinated. Nobody has that job in Australia, yeah. And I was a bit disappointed that I wasn't going to see a polar bear. And of course, doing my forecasting that there weren't any bears around, all of a sudden my fear level went down, and I started just skiing around the village in a total whiteout storm and cruising around, checking everything out. I wasn't too scared. I thought there were no bears around. These guys would have told me if there was. And then one night it was nearly midnight, and I had just eaten with a bunch of some other teachers. We'd had dinner, and all of a sudden we started seeing some blue patches in the sky. I'm like, wow, it's midnight. And they're like, yeah, the sun sets after midnight. And I'm like, wow, let's go out and watch the sunset.
Okay.
And and it's still really windy, and we took our dogs out, and we decided we'd go for a walk, take the dogs for a walk. And at the last minute, I was already out the door. One of them said, hey, Jen, grab your kite. And I'm like, yeah, let's go fly a kite at midnight, watch the sunset. This is going to be awesome.
Amazing.
And we got to this location, and it was just gorgeous. Orange light. Everything was just perfect except the wind. The wind was super gusty. And I thought, I don't even know if I can fly this kite in this wind, but I'll give it a shot. And so I put up this little trainer kite. You attach it with Velcro to your wrist, and I'm flying this kite, and it's going up and down in the gusty winds. And the other people that was with me, they sort of backed up behind me to get out of the wind near this building. So they were cold, and I was out there. I wasn't cold. I had all my puffy down jackets on, and just loving being out in the wind. And the next thing I know, I hear one of them yell, bear, bear. And I look over, and there's a polar bear charging towards me, running straight towards me. And I remember seeing its eyes, its nose. I remember the feet, and it is close. It's not coming from a distance over the flats. There was like a snow fence there, and it'd come up over the snow fence, and it is way too close already. And no matter how many posters I'd seen saying stand there and wave and yell bear, bear, what do you think I did? Ran.
I was going to say, I would have
But
Yeah, I
I
would have
just
ran.
turned around and flight, you know. I
Yeah.
love flying kites, and flight was my primal fear response. And I started running, and the assuring thing, or the thing that made me feel better, was I saw all the other people running too. We all ran. I saw the backs of them. For an nth of a second, I'm like, oh no, I'm at the back. You're not supposed to be the slowest runner when you're being chased by a bear. I'm actually a really fast runner, but I'm at the back. And the next thing I know, I fall flat on my face.
Oh, shit.
Out of nowhere. I didn't expect it. I fell flat on my face. And I've got really good balance, and I couldn't quite figure out why I'd fallen over. And the next thing I know, I get to my feet and I look, and this bear is now, I'm not great with feet, but let's just say, 100 feet away, and still running directly towards me. And I thought to myself, oh no, this could
All
be it.
done.
This
Yeah.
could be it, Jen. The bear's coming. And then I realized the reason why I'd fallen over it is I was still attached to my
That's the
kite.
kite.
Yeah, so the wind's blowing the kite one way and I'm running the opposite way, and all of a sudden the kite acted like an anchor, and I'm like, bang. So I knew as soon as I got up and I'm looking at this bear, I had to get that Velcro wrist leash off. And it was difficult because I had to come off over my glove, and eventually I got that Velcro off. The bear's now, 50 feet away, and the wind took the kite away from me, and the bear turned and chased the kite.
No shit.
So my kite ended up saving my life that day. My best buddy, the wind, and my favorite kite saved my life.
Yeah. That's awesome. Like how you feel about the wind and what your relationship is with the wind, and like how that plays into that. That's amazing. What color was the kite?
Blue, and I still have it, and I won't let anyone fly it. And I was so hoping that there were, because the bear went up to it, and I was hoping there were
some marks
in it, so I could put it on the wall, right? Like your Be Raw sign. I'd have the
yeah.
Marks. And Polar Bear Patrol ended up turning up, and they're like, I thought you guys went to bed. They'd gone to bed because they didn't think no one would be out and around the village. And so by the time they got there, the bear was not threatening my life anymore, so they shot fireworks at it, and I'm so grateful that they didn't need to use bullets on the bear. And they went and drove their snow machine over and grabbed my kite and brought it back to me.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Woo! God, I got my heart growing a little bit. Chased by a fucking bear. So,
I got back to Anchorage and told all my friends this story, and told my husband. He's like, the last thing I said to you was don't get eaten by a polar bear.
Hey, did you go? I didn't. I'm still here.
I lived to tell the tale, and what an incredible experience.
Because isn't a polar bear the only bear species that will track a human?
That's what they say,
right? Is that what they say?
That's what they say. But you know what? With my experience that I had, and maybe it's just because I'm an animal lover, but I totally believe that he wasn't just after food. He had seen the kite flying around the sky because it's up high, so he would have been able to see it.
So maybe he was tracking that kite the whole time.
Yeah, he was curious of what's that thing moving around. I've never seen one of those, because bears are curious. And so as soon as he saw the kite moving again, he was like, well, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I also think that they're probably not as vicious and scary as we all make out to be. It's kind of like the spider and snake thing, right? Oh, polar bears are going to come and eat you. Just like that shark out there. You know what? The shark would prefer to eat a seal, so would that polar bear. They don't really want to eat some Aussie chick, vegetarian. I'm probably taste terrible, but
tastes like a cucumber. You don't want that.
But the other sort of safety system that they had in Kaktovik, it's called the early warning system, and all of the houses that were around the outside of the village had dogs on chains that were outside.
Start barking, right?
And so they start barking. And my question was, how many dogs have been eaten? I'm thinking, man, that dog's tied up. The bear could get it, no problem at all, you know. They bark and notify you, but how many dogs have actually been eaten by a polar bear? How many do you reckon? Well,
none.
Absolutely zero. A few of them had been sort of swiped because they were probably yapping and noisy and, you know, disrupting what the bear wanted to do. But if they were just hunters and wanting to eat meat, they would have been eating those.
Eat all the dogs. We watched a lot of documentaries and stuff, and we've seen people living up there, and they talk about polar bears with dogs and stuff, and you know, polar bears is minding his business, and you know, just like just about every interaction that a human has with a wild animal. They go into their habitat and something happens to the human. They're like, what happened? I'm like, motherfucker, he's living in the woods and you walk in the woods and he's like, hey, bro, what's up? And he attacks you. And now you're like, the bear's mean. The bear ain't mean. What are you doing here? That'd be like you come crashing into my house. I'm going to fuck you up. And you can't get mad at me. I mean, same there. I found this. Sorry, it took a little longer than.
That's okay. I'm excited to.
Ready?
Excited to see you share. Yeah, show me. Oh, I know what that is. I know what that is.
Is that what you have? Is that what you have?
Yeah. That's what I.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
I was. I'm about 10 days. I was paralyzed from the waist down.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And my doctor, neurosurgeon, come to find out he was Ronald Reagan's neurosurgeon.
Wow.
Right. And he went in through the front and he knew his bedside manner. He knew me right away. Like he picked up on because I'm laying there and I saw him on one day and he comes back the next day and he goes, this date, we're going to do the operation because I will not do the operation without my vascular surgeon. And I'm like,
I had one of those too.
Because they went in through the front, just like you. I had an 8-inch hole in my belly right on my belt line where they spread everything apart and went in through the front.
Yep.
And I go, so I have to stay here until then? He looks down at my legs and looks up at me, goes, where the fuck you going to go? It's like, oh yeah, you got a good point, dude. All right. I'll see you next week.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Hey.
And are you doing good now? How long ago was that? And are you doing good?
That was almost 6 years ago.
Yep.
I this morning in the gym, I did overhead presses, deadlifts, heavy for reps, jump rope, hit the heavy bag, and ran 3 miles.
Yeah. Go Walt. That's awesome to hear.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. It's so cool. And it's so inspiring for other people that need spinal surgery and they're too scared to have it and they're living their lives in pain and not getting to enjoy their life. Whereas if they had the courage to go through with these incredible surgeries, then we can get back to our lives, get back to our sports and activities. And I know that feeling.
It's crazy. He, it was the night before, I think, or the day before he comes in. Of course, I'm laying in bed and I got a little bit of feeling in my right leg by then, but not much. I couldn't move anything. Right.
Scary.
And, he comes in, he's like, all right. And I love the guy till this day. He's just his bedside manner was amazing. He goes, all right, I got A, B, and C options. I said, okay. He goes, A, is what I want to do. And he had this piece. So, I mean, it looks big in the picture, but it's a little tiny thing. He goes, I want to put this in your back, but I don't know how much damage your back it has right now, like cartilage and what your vertebrae look like, because they have to be able to adapt to this thing.
Yep.
And I said, okay. And I go, B. And he goes, I fused all that and he goes, with this piece, you'll have like 95% of your life back, basically. You know, there'll still be some restrictions. Like with me, if I'm laying flat on the floor or flat on the bed, I have to turtle to get up. Like on the floor, I'll turn on my side, get on my hands and knees and get up. But I found out that this specific one of mine has a little edge on it, and it, for safety reasons, it doesn't allow it to bend it a certain way. And like, so if when I'm laying in bed and I want to sit up straight, like just sit up in bed, I have to kind of turtle myself up and then I sit up. Because I mean, I have enough power and I'm strong enough to sit up straight, but for some reason that little piece stops me from doing it. So I have to kind of turtle to get it past the point. But anyway, so he's like 95% of the mobility, life is good. And I said, cool. I go option B. And he goes, I got to fuse everything together and maybe you might get 60%. And I was like, fuck, all right, well, it's better than not walking, right? And he turns and he walks away. And his back's to me and he's walking away. And I go, see? And he throws his hand up like this. He goes, you don't walk again. And out the door he went. And I was like, okay. All right. Here we go. Yeah. And the whole time I saw him all week, disheveled, hair a fucking mess, not shaved. I mean, just a fucking mess, right? So I tell my wife, I go, Jesus, I see what he looks like when he does the surgery, you know? And the morning of the surgery, you know, you're down in prep and I can hear him coming. Wow. Whips open the curtain, slicked hair, clean shaven, literally rose-colored glasses on. I was like, okay, now that guy, okay, you look like a surgeon now, because yesterday you did not look like a surgeon. But awesome dude, and like I said, here I am doing what I do, and I chase my son around and I play with him on the playground, and you know, when he gets into little spots in the playground, I'm a bigger guy, and I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, Dad, now he knows. He's like, Dad, can you fit in here? I'm like, nope. He's like, okay. He's like, Dad, can you fit in here? Yeah, I'm coming. And I squeeze myself in. So it's kind of fun to, you know.
Yeah, I love a happy ending.
Yeah, oh my God. Man, when you said you got this little piece in your back and they went in through the front, I was like, hey, I know that. So yeah. That's awesome. And then real quick, I just want to tell you something real quick. In my merch store, and I'll get with you after the recording.
Yeah.
I have merch that says motion is lotion.
Oh, that's good.
Right? So I came out of surgery on a Friday and I woke up at like 6 p.m. because I came in still high on all the shit they gave me, you know, but I was lucid by 6 o'clock p.m. 9 o'clock that night, a physical therapist shows up, goes, get out of bed.
Yeah.
I was like, are you I was like, what are you, fucking crazy? I didn't walk. Look at that back surgery. And so she gets me out of bed. And it was amazing. I could feel my toes. I could wiggle my toes. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. So I was emotional to begin with. Right. And I'm on that, like the walker thing. And I'm a bigger guy, so I'm like basically holding myself up and shoveling down. But I'm touching the floor with my toes and like kind of getting used to it. And we walk in her physical therapy room and I stop, and against the back wall, as big as the wall, from corner to corner, floor to ceiling, was painted, motion is lotion. And I just cried like a baby. Feels pretty cool, huh? And I go, that makes total sense to me. And she goes, yeah, motion is lotion. You need to keep moving. And I was like, so I've adapted that pretty hard in my life. Like, just keep moving. Just keep moving.
Yep.
Don't stop. Just keep moving. Whatever you're doing, just move. Even if you got to go slow, doesn't matter. Just move. Yep. Your body needs, we're built to move. We're not built to sit in a car. We're not built to sit in front of the TV. You know, you know that as best as anybody.
Yes, I do. Motion is lotion. I love that. And I love that the word emotion has motion in it too, because quite often we get very emotional, especially when we're scared and we want to freeze.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so if you've got emotion, the way to get out of emotion is move to the motion.
Motion.
Get rid of
I
the E.
like that. See, look at that. Look at us coming up with stuff.
Back buddies.
Yeah, there we go. Exactly. Right? God damn it, Jen. How awesome. So much fun. So much fun.
So much fun chatting with you, Walt. This is
That's
great.
awesome. But hang tight. I'm going to stop recording, but hang tight. All right.
Okay.
Thanks for coming on.
This was so fun. You roar.
So when you get done shaking your head and saying, was that real? Is this lady for real? Yep, she's real, and she's a lot of fun, as you can see, but she's out to help people as well. Jump in the show notes is how you can get a hold of Jen. I bet you she would love to talk with you. All right? But I'm going to get you out of here because I know you got shit to do. But don't forget, Live Rishi, High Speed Daddy, and my website with the new logo and stuff. And if you listen to this far, check out the merch, Powered by Series. Awesome stuff. All right? Bye, everybody.
You out there? You listening?